We are live. I am live. I'm alive. Get my pulse. We just need to be live on Spaces. Hey, Diversify. How's it going? Man, I'm so excited. I'm creating these short videos, putting them up on YouTube, X, and now TikTok. I want to do 3 a day, guys. Like, I want to light up the social media. I want to light them up, man. Bring them over to PulseChain, into the grays. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm a little extra excited today. And it's not just the chart action. I figured out how to, because this week I was making some short videos, and I really wanted to get them up on TikTok. And I figured out how to log into my TikTok account. This is one of those accounts I never use, so I was having some difficulties. And I figured it out this morning. I just modified an account that I had, modified the username. So I'm the prairiebanana.pls on TikTok. That doesn't mean anything, except that I have an account, and now I can upload these short videos to TikTok also. I'm not going to give everybody my secret sauce. I think Stylist knows, she's in the chat, and I think I inferred it to you the other yesterday. But I'm going to tell you what, man, the tools we have at our disposal, they just blow my mind. It's like they eliminate so many excuses for, oh, I can't, and oh, this is so difficult. And I was telling my wife, I said, all I got to do is put in the work, and the tools they're like 10xing my effort. And so I'm excited, man, for the opportunity to onboard people into PulseChain and then into the grays.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one thing that would be good for TikTok or even YouTube is getting a couple like bookmarked videos, like some of the videos you think that are some of your better ones. And if there's like prices in there and stuff like that, and maybe you could also go back to those videos in future videos for anyone who's finding you later, like, hey, this is where I was a month ago. This is what I was talking about. And this is how much the price has increased since this marketing campaign has started. And there's obviously like a lot more months that this marketing campaign is going to go. I think that would hit a lot of people. I think a lot of people want to see that the investors that took action, when you first started doing the videos are up. I think that's one of the things we need in general on PulseChain is when people look at this marketing campaign, when people look at PulseChain, they want to see that the people who invested in PulseChain before them have been successful with their investment, right?
Yes. Well, everybody that got in yesterday is up 9% today. And that's a valid point. And I will do that. And I have a list, literally a list of 100 different ideas that I can play off of for these short videos. And I was visiting with Stylist this morning, and she's very optimistic at the potential success. I think she even used the term virality. Who knows, what these videos can do. But she was very optimistic about the potential for short videos to make an impact on the market. I wonder if flooding, like YouTube, for example, flooding my YouTube channel with shorts versus, some of this long form like we're doing right now, and then maybe having some medium form where you got like a 10 to 20 minute video. I wonder if having both having long ones and short ones might actually hurt my algorithm. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. I'm sure it'll be just
I
fine.
don't think the shorts are going to hurt your algorithm at all. I think the shorts are a great onboarding tool to your page. And then once they kind of are hooked, they might start watching the long ones, right? But I think a brand new person, they're going to be attracted to the short, right? Like I feel like for a brand new person who doesn't know what Prairie Banana is, they almost need a trailer of what you are doing in your, before you watch a movie, you usually watch the trailer because you want to see what that video is about. And I would consider the shorts more like a trailer of what you're producing as far as your hour and a half long videos.
Yep. Yes. In those short videos, the whole idea is to get them over into my Telegram. There's a link for the Telegram. And why do I want them in my Telegram? So that I can answer any questions that they have about PulseChain. And then we're dropping pTGC stuff in there in that Telegram. We owe it to people when they come to PulseChain to land on the Grays currencies. I believe that. These aren't just meme coins. These aren't just another token on PulseChain. They're an index of the best assets on the chain, especially the RH cores, the 4 cores that everybody's going to come over and want to hold. But if you hold pTGC, you hold the 4 cores. So it's almost like we owe these people. Come on over. Sure, get you some cores, but get you some pTGC first. And then you have exposure to all the cores. Then you can cherry pick which ones you want to, have a larger bag of. But that's the idea. Bring them into the Telegram and then over into pTGC. And there was already at least one gentleman that got in earlier this week, and I think he even leveled up his bag yesterday on this nice little dip and helped him get into pTGC, and he's happy, he's excited, and I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I definitely think where we are right now is huge opportunity zone for getting into Richard stickers and pTGC and UFO. So quickly we can get right over SAC price. pTGC can go from a 100 million market cap over a 200 million market cap. Richard stickers can go from where they are right now to right over SAC so quickly. And by getting, a 2x now is the difference in the future between a 100x and a 50x, a 200x and a 100x. And let's say they get in even after SAC price or after pTGC is over its all-time highs. Which could happen, within weeks, within a month, very quickly. And that's the difference between a 100x and a 25x. So I definitely think educating people, onboarding people to the good products on chain at these low levels is super important.
Yeah. I'm walking a gentleman through we're chatting in Telegram, and he reminded me because he's like, hey man, I'm looking at my UFO EHEX LP. I made a big old LP just recently, and suddenly, where's my EHEX? I'm like, oh, you have an opportunity. Go to the DApp, pulsetgc.com, connect your wallet, and see how many UFO shares you got. He's like, I got X number. And then I'm like, okay, now go over to PulseX V2 and see how much UFO is in that wallet. And he's like, I have more. I'm like, bingo. Now what you can do is unpair that LP, repair it, and you'll have more UFO shares. And it's the UFO shares that pay you the passive income. So he's going through that process right now, and he's going to end up making more passive income because he'll have more UFO shares. So the lesson there is EHEX ran up yesterday. So if you have a pair, you might want to do the same thing. Look in your wallet, see how many UFOs you have, how many UFO shares you have on PulseTGC, and then how much UFO is in your wallet on PulseX V2. And if you got more, then you can level up for the price of gas.
Yeah, keep in mind, everyone listening, make sure to do that on the PulseTGC.com tab, because that's a smart contractor interacting, which does void the fees for you. So you just don't want to do that with the standard Pulse X DEX, which you can. It's just the fees are still there because you're not going through the smart contract, and it won't be a better deal to do it that way.
Right.
So make sure you use the smart contract DApp to do it if you are interested in increasing your UFO shares in that way.
Yep, that is essential. Absolutely. So yeah, EHEX ran up, I want to say 25% yesterday, and now it's down 1%, unless I'm missing something. Let me pull up the chart. That's a pretty dramatic correction. Let me see here. Yeah, it was up quite a bit yesterday. Let me see how much. You get a measurement. It ran up 22%, and today, and then from that all-time high, it's down. And I'm not being bearish or nothing. I'm just being real. It's down 10%. So it's 10%. No, it's 12% up from where it was yesterday before it did its big run. So that's a great move for EHEX.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want Richard's assets to do. It's crazy how much little volatility we've had in Richard's assets for a while now, which is part of it, right? Like, they're not always going to be volatile, but what's nice to see is some volatility, some volume on his assets, because this is what our system thrives off of. I don't know if you can pull up the volume of the UFO EHEX pair and see what that's generated for us in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's quite decent. And keep in mind, guys, that's 100% off of the utility of pTGC. That's not dependent on human interaction. That's the utility that just generates revenue off of the market shifting up and down.
Yeah.
So
yep,
even if EHEX went right back to the same exact price it was, what we generate is revenue. What a standard holder gets is nothing. They just kind of went completely around circle, went from A to B and then B back to A, where at the end of that, we end up with actual value generation, which means actual growth to our ecosystem. That means pTGC had buy pressure it would have never had, and then scarcity, because those tokens that are bought off the market are sent to the debt address. And this happens every single day. Some days obviously more violent than others, which was yesterday. EHEX kind of making a nice move.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that up?
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that EHEX, by the way, is up. It's down today, but it's up 50% for the past 7 days. So you always got to keep things in perspective. UFO. I went to the UFO pair, the UFO on Secreto Bank, which is a free site you guys can go to, secretobank.com. The EHEX pair, about an hour ago, I refreshed this. It has $31,470 in 24-hour volume. The WPLS pair has $17,686 in volume. So even the EHEX pair has more than the Pulse pair. And then pTGC.
What was the EHEX pair again? Sorry, I missed that.
31,000.
Nice.
Yeah, and then pTGC, let's see what its volume was with EHEX. 6,500. But the liquidity, pTGC's liquidity is 62,000. UFOs is 721,000. Yo, that's a lot.
Yeah. EHEX has a solid push this cycle. Like I don't know if Richard has plans for EHEX, if it's gonna kind of keep getting shut down a little bit, or if that's gonna run. I think the chances of it running is so much higher now that the gas prices on Ethereum have been reduced. That was kind of the big hurdle for EHEX. That was the reason for the creation of PulseChain, was just because the fees to transact on Ethereum was just too high for real DeFi protocols. It probably was going to just lead to the failure if they didn't get that under control of Ethereum. So it's definitely good to see that they, got the fees under control. But I think that kind of brings back Ethereum for a huge contender of being one of Richard Hart's tickers. I do think obviously the PulseChain one is going to be the main one. It's got the liquidity, it's got the community. But if you believe in the code base of Hex, the Ethereum version should have a value just, maybe not as high as PulseChain's, or maybe as high, who knows, but a value there, right? A value there, and there's less liquidity, which probably means more volatility. Great for our ecosystem. UFO has so much liquidity with it. If that ever goes on a decent run, not like a 20% run, like we're all excited about a 20% run, but like if it actually goes on a decent run this cycle, huge success for UFO. Tons of value generation. Obviously, we get price appreciation from it too.
Yeah. Yep. Exciting times. I mean, Pulse is up, 9%? Is that what I said? Yeah, 9% today. That's so amazing. I think it was under 404 yesterday, or just above, actually. So.
Yeah, what's nice to even think about? We received a lot of sell pressure yesterday on the cores as well. There was a lot of value that was sold into ETH, and the buy pressure was stronger. It absorbed it. And that's a good sign of a bull market started, because even in a bull market, you have to know there's tons of sell pressure in the bull market. It's just the buy pressure is so much stronger. It outweighs it.
Yep.
That also leads to a good question that I received in my community. People are like, hey, PulseChain PLS is up 25% in the past 10 days, but pTGC is only up 15% in the past 10 days. I thought pTGC was going to outperform. And my response was, you got to understand pTGC is still a tradable asset. And I was kind of watching some wallets and DEX tools yesterday, and there was one kind of whale that was pretty much relentlessly dumping the entire time PulseChain was up yesterday. Mm-hmm. But what I tell them is, it's still a lower market capitalization, and there's still the machine behind the scenes. So during that person dumping, they're probably rotating into the blue chips or EHEX or whatever it is. I didn't track it fully. There's earning those fees. And do you have any idea of what kind of burn occurred in the past 24 hours, or what kind of DAO fees were built up that could be used for LP ads and buybacks and burns of pTGC moving forward, based off of the volatility and action that we saw yesterday?
Yeah, I actually was writing a post about it right before I hopped on here. I just didn't get it done in time. In the last 24 hours, pTGC has generated $20,000. I can go to the picture real quick. And I was also kind of going to talk about what that means in the future of PulseChain too. So what we generated in the last 24 hours is $20,000. That's $8,000 that went to the DAO. $4,000 that went to holding. Hold on, sorry. $8,000 that went to the DAO. $4,000 that went to holding rewards. $4,000 went to staking rewards. $2,000 to the automatic buy and burn, and $2,000 to the automatic liquidity add with PLS. That's just in the last 24 hours. So $20,000 has been generated in the last. But another crazy thing to think about is we're still at very, very low levels of PulseChain. If that same quantity of tokens was moved throughout our ecosystem, let's say in the future when PulseChain's 10x higher, that would be $200,000 of value generation. That's kind of what I was putting in perspective, is we still are at such low levels, even though it's a great $20,000 value generation day for our ecosystem. in the future, if PulseChain is successful, like those numbers are going to be increasing. And like you said, like, yeah, it definitely is a bummer if you are interested in price action that we had a day that performed lower than PulseChain. But there's also a lot of days that we've performed higher than PulseChain. And you can't win every single day when there's human interaction involved, as natural buyers and sellers of these ecosystems.
Well, yeah. At the same point, real quick, Nick. At the same point, you can chime in on this. I don't always want pTGC outperforming PulseChain because we also own PulseChain. We also own the cores.
Yep.
We need the volatility in the pools shifting in ratios to generate billions of PulseChain and millions of dollars that goes back to the holders. We need PulseChain to begin to outperform. All we've been doing this entire time is outperforming PulseChain, right? And it's also very healthy and sustainable for anybody who has, a certain amount of the pTGC tokens still at this point. They've held for over 2 years. So, we're at a tipping point where, some people are saying, okay, let me take a little bit of profits. Let me roll into the cores a little bit. All this does is just distribute larger amounts of tokens back into the pools. And then those larger amounts of tokens are getting distributed not into one wallet, but into 100 wallets. That's exactly what you want in a healthy ecosystem, right? So it's important that these ebbs and flows happen. You can't have an asset just go up infinitum against another asset. And in terms of, Nick, what you're saying, the question, yeah, it's a tradable asset. Reflexivity does not mean that when PulseChain goes up, pTGC just goes up more every time. No. What it means is that we're going to get the mean, and if more people are buying into our ecosystem at that moment, we'll have more X's against it. If there's people selling into an uptrend in the cores, we're going to go down against it a little bit. But guess what? We have built-in mechanics that are designed to defeat the entropy of an ecosystem or the energy loss of an ecosystem. That mechanic that's built to create that fight against that entropy, it doesn't really exist in any other type of systems. So it's not something that should be frowned upon. It's something that should be looked at as a healthy market. This is a market, and something that allows for the system to breathe, to let people take profits, and remind you that the pTGC ecosystem's DAO has not been injecting any funds into buy and burns or LP ads or anything for, I think, now 45 days. And we're still sitting here. So anyway, I'll pass the baton over to you, Nick.
Yeah, I was just going to say another thing that I said to them is if you look at the charts historically, there's usually a slingshot effect where, PulseChain blue chips kind of do their thing. pTGC meanders, usually heads up and to the right a little bit, but kind of underperforms. And then there's that slingshot effect, which is caused by people feeling better morale, better momentum, and chasing some alts over on PulseChain rather than chasing the cores. But it really goes down to what you just described in the mechanics. All those funds, all that PLS is being built up. And what that does is it allows the protocol to then vote to buy and burn the token, add to various LP pools, pair with new assets on PulseChain that may or may not do well that can help expedite growth. And that's why you kind of historically see this slingshot effect of pTGC, where you see some holders selling out because of a little bit of green. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, the machine does its thing, starts buying and burning tokens. And pTGC seems to play catch up with PulseChain and then start outperforming it when PulseChain is kind of finding local tops. So, I still think pTGC is one of the best machines out there. The index for the blue chips of PulseChain, still one of the first assets I tell people to buy when they come to PulseChain. And I think history repeats itself again. And the next target is new all-time highs for pTGC as PulseChain starts to ramp up here with this IRL marketing, Ethereum speculation, and everything that's going on right now in the markets. Yeah,
it's very similar to, a few months ago, we we went down into this range of 8-7 PLS to 1 pTGC, which keep in mind is still roughly 8x higher in the last year against Pulse, with really no new users on the chain. Still very, I'd say, no new users for the most part on the chain. Definitely less value on the chain than there was a year ago or a year and 2 years ago. So we do believe that new value will start to flow in here soon. But the more important thing is what we saw last time pTGC kind of tapped these low levels, right? Is it was an opportunity for people to actually take a position in pTGC where they're getting a good ratio of PLS to pTGC. They're actually getting a discount there. And very, very quickly, pTGC ran back up to its all-time highs or close to its all-time highs against PulseChain. It went from that 7-8 range within months, was back at that 20 range. It did get knocked back down, I think, just because it did that run up again. And again, we hit the point where there still wasn't a new inflow of users into PulseChain. So it kind of got knocked back down. We're at that level again. We are at that range. It could go a little bit lower. Who knows? It could start bouncing back up from here. I think it depends on the power of holding of our own community. But what it does open up is an opportunity for users to take PLS or even take fresh capital into pTGC's ecosystem and actually get it at a discount. So when green candles start to come, they possibly are having the opportunity to get more of an X multiplier effect, right? Like if we just go back up to, let's say, right above our all-time highs of ratio to PLS in this next push of PulseChain, let's say it happens in the next few months, well, that's a 3x multiplier over PulseChain. If we go 24-1, well, people who are taking advantage of the opportunity right now of getting into pTGC, they just did the X's that they got off PulseChain, right? Let's say they got a 5x on PulseChain, but ratio-wise, we increase off of this level. Well, you just did a 15x if you exposed yourself to pTGC at these low levels, and pTGC gets back up to its all-time highs or a little above its all-time highs, ratio-wise to Pulse. That's opportunity. It's just most people don't take action on the opportunities, and that's where it's difficult. They wait for the ratio to get back up to the 15, the 20 range before they maybe take their PLS or new capital into the system. But look at it as an opportunity. Some people are looking for opportunities. Some people are maybe even looking for an opportunity a little bit lower than here to expose themselves to the system. But these lower opportunities, what that does for our ecosystem to the holders taking advantage of it, is when the momentum kind of pushes back up, when the ebb and flow kind of goes back into our favor, these users have the possibility to have a better X multiplier against PLS than if they got in at higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
If it went even a little bit lower, let's say, a community member didn't stop selling. I think we had some good selling yesterday. They've stopped to date, like to now. It looks like they might have been slowing down, or maybe they're taking a break. Let's say it even went a little bit lower. What that just creates is an opportunity for users to get in at a cheap PLS ratio. And as long as we go back to our all-time highs or higher, let's say it got pushed down to the 5 range. Well, to get to a 25-1 ratio, which would be our all-time highs, right above our all-time highs in ratio-wise, that would be a 5x over PulseChain. If PulseChain did a 10x in that time period, let's say it was a few months push, and we recovered our ratio, people who took advantage of that discount would have a 50x compared to just holding the PulseChain, which would be the 10x. So there is opportunities with these ebbs and flows, and I just want users to kind of think about it like that. People do sell. People take profits in things that go up. People will always take profits in things that go up. People also take profits in things that go down, but at least the system has a lot of mechanics when these discounts do present themselves. There's a lot of amazing things that are happening in the background. More tokens are getting bought and burned. I think it's just in the last 24 hours, $3,500 has been bought and burned. pTGC. That's not with the DAO. That's just with the automatic functions within the system. Rewards are being paid out. The DAO is able to accumulate more PLS because of the volume going on. And that value eventually does get used at strategic points. If that's a strategic point when PLS is worth more, or if that's a strategic point when pTGC is worth less, but at strategic points to regain back that ratio against PLS that, I think a lot of people care about.
The ratio is my favorite metric, but I'll be honest, whenever I see the Pulse pTGC ratio decrease, I get excited because that means Pulse is moving. And so I'm right there with you, Mando. When, Pulse needs to move, we're bonded to it. We want Pulse to be, and everything connected to it to be successful on Pulse Chain. So I get excited when I see it. Even when I see the ratio dip a little bit, because I think we're probably going to slingshot back to our previous all-time high and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'll be honest, man. I said it on the live stream with the Crypto Kings the other day. I'm tired of PulseChain underperforming. If PulseChain starts to perform and the ratios swing back in PulseChain's favor, well, guess what that means? That means that this phenomenal protocol called the Grace currency that's built on PulseChain is built on a pulse chain that's going to be successful, is built on a pulse chain that's going to start seeing a lot of new users, is built on a pulse chain that's going to start seeing a lot more volume in use. The protocol isn't going anywhere. It has millions of dollars of value burnt into PulseX. Seeing Pulse Chain go up against the Grace currency is a good thing, and it's an ebb and flow, and it's something that we really, really want to see, because what that means is that Pulse Chain is starting to grow and starting to do well. We want to see Pulse Chain go to 301, 302, and even if our ratio goes lower, it doesn't matter. The market cap's going to go higher. The volume is going to go higher. The revenue generation is going to be deeper and thicker, and we're still adding users. So, people unfortunately in crypto that haven't been around long enough, you get so tunnel visioned on just the price, and that's fine if you're in a meme or if you're in just whatever, just the basic pump and dump, but it's not fine for when you're actually in Bitcoin, or when you're in ETH, or when you're in something like this that's phenomenal, that's been designed with such precision and mechanics, undeniable mechanics, mathematical, financial mechanics, right? So understand what this is, how it works, know what you own, why you own, when you own it. Understand we want Pulse Chain to win. We want Pulse Chain to go up in price against the Grays sometimes. That means that we're winning, right? It's an indirect win for us. The more Pulse Chain goes up in price, the more the blue chip protocols that are not RH tickers win on Pulse Chain, because it allows more adoption to happen for those protocols. It's just that simple. People just get freaked out about, I top blasted the last one. And it's always those people too. That's fine, and I totally get it. We've all top blasted, right? But I would say that come in, get your questions answered on how the system actually really works. Understand this isn't some damn pump and dump. We've got over 26 months of key performance indicators with the Grace currency. It is a real financial product on Pulse Chain. It is not going anywhere. And to be honest, there really hasn't been a lot of selling, to be honest. I mean, it's just every time that the USD price of pTGC comes down, you have to minus the percentage of what the cores and the major assets did. So you have to take the mean of that and then minus that, and that's actually what the percentage of the grays or the ecosystem came down, right? So it's like you said, Zen, there was a sell-off yesterday and it came back down. Okay, so you have to minus that percentage from the actual percentage that the grays came down because they're bonded. So there is education to it, but guys, we want to see PulseChain win. That's the reason why we're built on this blockchain.
Yeah, I'll chime into it a little bit, right? When PLS starts going up, obviously hope that no one sells, right? We want people to buy in this event, but sometimes people sell. This is just what happens, right? You put people in profits. We want to be in projects that put people in profits. We don't want to be in projects that don't put anyone into profits so they can't take profits, because that means you're not in profits either. So be happy that people are in profits. That means we're moving in the right direction. But the cool thing is PLS is finally increasing in value. And what does this mean? That means actually value is starting to flow into the chain. I don't think a lot of it is coming from off-chain. I think a lot of it's from stables that were here, just people rotating out of stables, feeling confident in where PulseChain is going. But what this means is value is finally starting to move into PLS. Keep in mind, we're still very, very low. We're not even at half the stack price. But seeing that value flow into Pulse is really what we need right now, because this is going to attract new users from other blockchains and retail. This is something that needs to happen, because when PLS increases, that means new users are going to be coming in. This is new users, new capital that we can now educate and inform about how the craze actually functions. Keep in mind, right now, our price is at the same price. It's actually higher than what it's been in the last week, last 2 weeks. If you look at the USD chart, we've been in this exact same range for the last 2 weeks. So we haven't really lost price at all. We haven't gained price at all either. It's all ebbing and flowing. But by having the RH tickers increase, even with us saying somewhat the same price, right? That's kind of where we're at right now. The benefit of this is the price in dollar value, we're actually the same, but our liquidity backing that price value is increasing, because the things that we are tied to are increasing, which is making our liquidity rise, but our price is staying somewhat even. Obviously, we prefer our price to rise with it, but there are some good positive metrics we can look at is, hey, the things we're connected to are rising. That means value is actually flowing into the chain. Keep in mind, there's been very lack of value flowing into the chain for the last 2 years. Value has actually been leaving the chain. So seeing value actually flow in is a huge thing that we need for a successful blockchain. But also by the success of these things that we're bonded to, we'll see our liquidity increasing even if our price stays stagnant, which means there's more capital not only backing the price of this asset, but also working for the price of this asset. So we'll start to see our volume increase. That means our buy and burn can increase. That means our value generation for the DAO can increase. That means APY for our holders can increase. Hopefully this means just natural volume on chain increases as well. Just a couple days ago, we had another pretty much all-time low volume day of like $9 million or something like that. Keep in mind, the majority of that is arbitrage bots. So technically, chain is still very much dead, but we are starting to work our way in the right direction, hopefully to start onboarding new capital and new users to a blockchain we all believe is mathematically set up for success, decentralized, robust, a lot of the features people are looking for in a blockchain, just they don't know it exists and haven't been attracted to it yet due to the lack of green candles. But by us being connected to things moving up, even if we're not moving up as drastically, our liquidity backing our asset is actually increasing. And on top of that, the ability that we have to generate revenue is increasing as well because of the liquidity and volume increasing on chain. Price is the easiest metric for everyone to look at But in real systems like this, there's a lot of other charts, a lot of other key performance
indicators, KPIs, key performance
KPIs,
indicators. Yeah.
KPIs we can look at that are also very, very bullish for the long-term success of the ecosystem, right? Like seeing volume increase mechanically is a huge one I'm excited for. Seeing that we have more liquidity for market makers to move to increase our natural daily volume that's not from human interaction. Yesterday on pTGC was a big human interaction day, I think, from the seller. But you have to realize when that guy's selling, as soon as he sells, you see market makers come in and start protecting the price via some of the other liquidity pools that don't get used by the auto router. The auto router, when people sell, only uses certain liquidity pools, mainly just the RH tickers, but then you'll see the market makers start pulling value from the sub-liquidity web, the ones that the auto router doesn't route to protect the price. Well, this is all just additional volume for our system, right? The seller is actually eating a little bit extra slippage, and then the market maker is fixing the prices. This is all fueling the machine. UFO, a great example yesterday, is very little human even sells, right? A lot of that was just helping fix and protect the pTGC price. And also the fact that it has such a large pairing with Hex, it was able to get probably, if you take the buy and sell side, I would say around $60,000 in volume just created by that specific pair. This is huge, right? Seeing the mechanics, seeing the machine starting to turn on. We've gotten glimpses of it turning on in the past. Last time pTGC and UFO really started to turn on, the performance of the asset, the performance with new users actually flowing into the chain equaled like a 50x from the lows. We are starting to see some of these signs again. We are getting a little bit of sell pressure due to the performance that pTGC and UFO has had in the last year against everything it's connected to. When you perform very well, keep in mind, people will take profits, right? Yeah. Not everyone has as long-term a mindset as you. Even some of the sell pressure that we did receive was from very long-term mindset people. So they do deserve profits, right? Everyone deserves profits. That's the goal, is to create a situation where people can take profits. There's enough liquidity, enough to demand a lot of the features to help better people's lives in real lives. But the machine is still running great. The reason we're here, all of those metrics are still hitting, what we're looking for. And hopefully this is the point where PLS does start to increase. We might lose a ratio a little bit more, especially if some people are willing to rotate out. All that means to me is there's an opportunity sitting there for anyone who wants to take advantage of that ratio or in that price, right? Price isn't leaving people quite yet. If you have dry powder and you can come into blockchain, or you have family friends that can come into blockchain, opportunity is still in front of us. Ratio-wise, if you're sitting on other assets, ratio-wise, there's an opportunity in front of us. Very quickly, this ratio and this opportunity can disappear, right? We saw it just a few months ago. We were at like 7 PLS to 1 pTGC ratio.
Yeah.
Within a month or two, back up to 20. Machine was cooking again, and then we had a little bit of a consolidation period on PLS again, which is fine. And it kind of comes back down. I won't be surprised if within a certain amount of time, a week or two, we just start making our way back up towards that 20 to 1, hopefully blowing far past it this time with real new value coming in, with the machine really turning on this time.
I think it's important to note for anybody who is wanting to buy and who is looking to buy that the current ratio is 8.56 to 1. So we bottomed back in what day was that? April 16th. We bottomed at a 6 to 1 ratio. And once it hit that ratio, it didn't just get slowly bought up. It got wicked up. And we literally witnessed billions, just certain investors were just coming with 5 billion, 6 billion, and just literally buying it up at these levels. So we're currently Let me pull the chart here. We're currently above that by 11.5%. So if you purchased at a higher level, right? This isn't going anywhere. But if you did purchase at a higher level, an amazing way to lower your cost basis in the asset is to buy at a lower level. Right now represents you're basically front running the previous local low where major whales of the blockchain were willing to drop 5-8 billion PulseChain to cop that bag by 11.5%, right? So the previous local low, which was bought up really quick, you're only 11% away from that ratio-wise right now. So what that means to people is right now is an amazing time to buy pTGC. I'm not giving you financial advice, but according to the TA and according to the buying habits of what I just consider to be millionaires on the blockchain that are buying the asset at certain prices, you're 11.5% away from where they started to buy on the last local low, which means that pTGC is undervalued.
Yeah, another proxy for that, you're talking about reducing a cost basis, and it doesn't get talked about a lot, and people don't really notice it, but just by holding pTGC, you do earn reflection rewards, and you can also stake it to earn almost double rewards. And then, daily, based on all the trading volume, you're effectively dollar cost averaging into pTGC and reducing your cost basis by just being a holder. So that's another thing that doesn't really get painted on the chart itself, but say you buy 1 million pTGC, tomorrow you might have 1,000,001 pTGC, which is effectively a DCA, increasing your position in the protocol itself, and then setting you up for even larger gains when the chain revalues itself here over the coming months and coming years.
Yeah, Nick, it's actually 150% more APY, so it's pretty far past double if you do decide to stake. Which I do think people who are interested in APY, who are long-term holders of pTGC, believe in the system as a true store of value that's deflationary, scarce, and pays you APY. A lot of these people are staked, so they're actually able to get that additional 150% APY.
Has anyone heard about any more mailers being received in mailboxes?
I saw someone on PulseChain, I forget his name, said one of his close buddies who is a crypto whale received one, and he posted a picture of it.
Right on. I listened to a Spaces the other day. RG3 was in there, several other hexagons, Tam Hex, it was her space, and they were talking about the mailers. Apparently they've got quite the machine going on over in Murrieta, California. They're looking for volunteers, by the way, and Richard Hart is looking for volunteers to go to Murrieta, California. Pretty sure that's where it is, and help with the mailing process, labeling, probably transporting, all that is being done by hexagons, pulsicans. It's a grassroots effort to get the mailers into circulation and into people's mailboxes, because it's not a successful campaign until these people come over to PulseChain, but they got to get the mailers first. So a wild SJ RG3 Richard is asking for people to participate in that. And I think okay. And my understanding is they're planning on 30 to 40, I think they said 30 to 40,000 mailers a day. And they're estimating it could take like a year for the number of mailers that are being sent.
Yeah, if they're using USPS mass distribution as well, it takes about 7 to 21 days of delivery time once they actually get it sent off through the mailing process. And then also on top of that, my dad's a retired postal worker, and I just went to his buddy's house to fix his computer, and he was telling me how a lot of their mail is kind of in backlog as, you know, with the government cuts and everything else, they're, you know, kind of falling behind on some of their mail distribution as well. So if something says, you know, 7 to 21 days, he's saying expect, you know, 10 to 30 days on that type of stuff. Also, if you're shipping your own personal stuff and you're shipping, you know, ground, it's usually 3 to 6 days. He says expect more like 6 to 10 days. So, you know, you got to give the IRL marketing a chance. And even when they say, hey, we ship these out, 30,000 of them went out, still depending on location from that hub, you're still waiting another 1 to 4 weeks before those actually hit the doorsteps. And then people got to see that and take action on that, which probably takes another few days to a week before people actually deploy capital. So this isn't like hey, we're going to pump to the moon right now, guys. No. This is a thing that's going to be going on consistently. And I do think that Richard Hart himself or whatever, they'll be, if you want to say manipulating, some people don't like that word, manipulating the chart to the upside, because I understand that if somebody does get this, looks at the chart and it's down and to the right, you're going to have a far less conversion rate than if there's some FOMO going on, some green candles. Much like what we're seeing in the general market. You know, how do you get retail back into the markets? How do you get retail into ETH? They need to see price go higher. So I think he's obviously aware of that. He doesn't want to spend the millions on our IRL marketing and not get that higher conversion rate by having green candles on chain, in my opinion.
Yep, that's why we're having green candles right now, because the mailers are being received.
Yeah, another one, Nick, is a lot of people, I think, in the United States use Coinbase to purchase, and Coinbase usually puts like a 5 to 7 day hold, especially on new clients, before they can even access their ETH to bridge into, or ETH to get to MetaMask. They can't even send it out of Coinbase for 7 days. So it is a process to, once someone even receives it and wants to take action, they probably have to educate themselves. They have to learn how. And then even once they know all that, it's, you know, a more than week process, I think, even until they can get into PulseChain.
Yeah, that's a good point. Coinbase says it's for security purposes, but we know it's for business purposes. Essentially, they want you to get the money on there. They let you buy the assets there. And then they kind of hold it and hope, A, you either forget about it, or B, you like the Coinbase platform or the opportunities, and more of your money and trading volume gets stuck on their platform versus taking it out. But yeah, that's another good point. That does add days onto the process of bridging over to PulseChain and onboarding into the assets.
It's amazing at this point that still is true, you know, because a customer has to sign up, they have to do KYC, they have to link their bank account. It's like, just let them have access to $5,000 instantly or something. Imagine if your bank did that, right? You know, like, oh yeah, let me sign up and I put in $5,000 and it's just, I wish that there was something that allowed for onboarding, instant onboarding for a certain amount, like $10,000 or something, and you could just instantly have access to it. But it's not with these exchanges.
Stylus and I did a quick stream this morning. I don't know if you guys know this, but on pulsechain.com, if you scroll down, there's that onboarding section where you see the bridge, the swap, and all that. There's OX Coast. Richard Hart on the site is pointing people to 2 different places to onboard. OX Coast, and then right next to that is Ramp Now. If you click on Ramp Now, you can spend euros, dollars, all kind of currencies, and swap them for PLS using, oh, it's already changed. It's literally changed. I should be sharing my screen. Since this morning, there were 3 tabs down here. Stylus she's my witness. But now you can do a bank transfer, pay by bank. Oh, this is for the euro. I'm sorry. This morning I was looking at dollars. Let's get back on dollars. You can pay with a Visa, Apple Pay, and Google Pay. So he's made it very easy for people to onboard to PulseChain.
Does that work in the United States, though? Because I was told that Ramp Now you can't use in the United States.
It looks like I can use it.
Do you have a VPN on?
It's not on right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe it does work. Yeah, I could have sworn, maybe it's been updated. I could have sworn a while ago someone said you had to use VPNs to access that and stuff.
I'll tell you what, during spaces, I'll do a transaction.
We really should get like with the team on this or whatever, and really figure out what is currently available to U.S. customers and what the limits are and what the turn times are. We should really get that down pat. You know, we go to the site, it's all there, but if we're not using it and we don't know what's actually available to U.S. customers, we might be missing on great onboarding opportunities.
Yeah, and like almost doing the transactions with someone to see if it even lets it go through. Because I've even tried some alternate routes from Coinbase, and I've always kind of gotten stumped on like certain banks just not letting the transaction go through and stuff like that, to where then I just rewind and just go back to what I know works, which is Coinbase, MetaMask, standard bridge, instead of using some of the new things, just because I've had very bad luck with them. And if there is a really awesome tool now, like on-ramp, or whatever it's called, where someone could just literally put their Visa card in and get $5,000 of Pulse on the Pulse network, that would obviously be the best solution for any standard new onboard. They could just do a few transactions, and unless it's a massive whale, then you can take them through the legit process. But a standard person that you're onboarding, a friend, a family member, $5K is a good start.
Does anyone else care to come forward and chat? Does anybody else have experience with this ramp now? I'm using it. I'm giving it a try right now.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions about PulseChain in general or anything, please come up and ask.
I think this Spaces call could start getting really exciting here soon.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really nice about seeing Pulse starting to make its way up. Since we know these mailers are going out, like that's something we really need for these mailers to have a success rate, I think. When they go and look up PulseChain's chart or Hex's chart, which, a lot of them might accidentally look up the eHex chart, which was up 20% yesterday, because I would assume a standard person that receives that mailer does not know the difference between eHex or pHex and understand that they're completely different assets with different prices. Probably a little confusing. A lot might just even end up on eHex. But point of it is we need them to see green. We need them to see a thriving community when they look this stuff up. So by seeing Pulse, starting to make its way in the right direction, even though we see pTGC kind of sitting stagnant, in the long term, this is what we need. We need new users to start making their way to PulseChain, because these new users will be the reflexivity. It will be the X multiplier for pTGC in the future.
It looks like I can't use ramp now. I would have to set my VPN to another country.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought. It's still very difficult to get people into PulseChain, which is hard.
OX Coast works though. Ariel Tang says that she's helped a few people with OX Coast, and it's good. And you can also use Change Now. You can buy Pulse with a debit card with Change Now.
Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Yes. How you doing, Ariel?
Yeah, I'm good. How is everyone? So happy to be back in the States because I have moved to Dubai right now, so timing doesn't fit. I have a question because I've been talking to people about PulseChain, explaining all these different things. But so recently I've got one of my good friend here to onboard, and he's already in crypto, mainly like the main ones. And so the one thing that really got him hooked was that he found, like I told him about the SEC funds of the Ethereum. So I don't know, like if because I know a little bit, but not too much. But like it feels like that can be one talking point when I talk to people to explain more about. So I would love to know more about what's your take on the SEC funds, how is it relevant for like the prospect of the chain, the pTGC, and everything around it. If there's anything you guys want to share.
Well, the truth is that the SAC funds, they were sent to the OA, and they were at one point in the not too distant past swapped for ETH. That is one of the largest ETH reserves on the planet. I think it's in the top 4 now, about 161,000 ETH. That's not indicative of everything that's connected to this ecosystem, but it's also not indicative of anyone being able to answer what is going to happen with that ETH. Is it going to move? Is it not going to move? So nobody can really give an answer or should be making a choice based on that, right? It's not owned by anybody that we know from one vantage point. From one vantage point, we think it is. But when we're talking to people about PulseChain, yes, it's very powerful that PulseChain has an OA that owns that much Ethereum. Yes, you could deduce that, there's a lot of capital that backs this blockchain. You can extrapolate like positive information from that. To me, when I share PulseChain with people, I only use that as a proxy to say that the people that are behind the PulseChain ecosystem, which is a global blockchain, are very well funded. In the same way that the Ethereum Foundation is well funded, or in the same way that other large blue chip blockchains are well funded, right? It's not just some blockchain sitting there without actual funding if needed to move forward, right? The other thing is that there's been a lot of capital movements on chain that have had nothing to do with the OA funds, right? We see a massive multi-million-dollar lawsuit that hit the blockchain. That was taken care of, and we're past that. That took millions and millions of dollars. We're seeing a massive multi-million-dollar marketing campaign happening right now in Europe and in the United States. We didn't see the SAC funds move there at all, right? So there's things happening on the PulseChain blockchain administratively that cost millions and millions of dollars, but yet we don't see really any ETH moving. What we can know is that the chain is backed by very large, very moneyed entities. And that's what you want to see if you're investing in something long term. In terms of like movement of that money, nobody can. I can't tell a friend what's going to happen, nor can you or anybody else. But it's obvious that PulseChain has massive financial backing. That is undeniable.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. I think because when I was just talking about pTGC and PulseChain, I wasn't actually focusing on the ETH, but it just happened that when I mentioned it, like that was just something that really ignites something in that person. So that's why I thought, oh, interesting. That I was curious about to learn more about from that perspective too. So thank you so much, Mendo.
Well, Ariel, we spoke for a good while a few months back, And I really appreciate that question. That question is something that should come up because it's all over the internet. When you start Googling and doing your market analysis, your market research about PulseChain, those funds do come up. So it's not something that an investor's not going to want to understand a little bit more about, as long as they understand that, you know, there is no expectations on anything, but it's just obvious that PulseChain has massive financial backing, and that's really what we need to be looking for, right? It's obvious that there was enough financial backing to hire the best attorneys in the world. It's obvious that there's been enough financial backing to run the chain, create the bridges, create the liquidity, buy out everybody who's ever wanted to sell at this point, all these different things. But in terms of like, is the OA going to pump my bags or something like this? We can't talk in those terms.
Yeah.
Yep, got it. I do think it's a very good way to have people like, it's more like I felt, because when I talk to these people that are not already on PulseChain, they have a lot of also like their own trauma with altcoins and all that. They are worried and they're fear, they're scared, they have their own trauma behind. But but people know about Ethereum. So when they know that, okay, it's a very well-resourced and financed chain, it's almost like they feel safe to look deeper into this ecosystem, because it's not just a place that is not like backed by something more solid, I guess. That's what I hope my point is being made.
Oh, it is. And it's true. You know, Richard and whatever associations, trusts, whatever is set up with the OA, these are very moneyed individuals, billions of dollars. PulseChain's backed by very well-financed people.
Yeah, that's one thing that really sets this blockchain apart and these alts apart from the 99.9% of tokens and blockchains that exist, right? A lot of them don't have any external funding. And when costs come up, the cost usually has to come from that asset itself, because there is no reserves or finances sitting on the side in other assets to pull from. And that's one thing I do find unique about the fact that we have so much cost or value in other assets. And Richard's been known to have a lot of value in other assets. When a lot of these expenses have came up that would normally have to come from the price of the asset, we've actually seen none of that value coming from the price of the asset. We've seen the value coming from, we don't even know where, but it's being paid for. With millions of dollars being spent on attorneys, millions of dollars getting put into a marketing campaign, possibly millions of dollars even coming into the bridge. We don't know, right? It was a wallet that was ran through Tornado Cash, but we've seen millions of dollars of Tornado Cash value coming over the bridge that seems somewhat similar to value that went in there from the OA. On other blockchains and other tokens, this is not it at all. All the value is already in the tokens, and they actually have to sell the tokens to pay for their overhead and their costs. For an example, and Ethereum has tons of overhead. There's hundreds of devs working on Ethereum at all times. How they pay these devs is from Ethereum's price. So they actually sell Ethereum and pay these people out this way. All other overhead costs come from this way as well. That's one thing that's very unique about PulseChain, is it very much seems like the overhead costs that are there with any blockchain, right, with any business, are actually being paid out not through the price of the protocol. A lot of the downtrend on PLS, I think, has just came from the community itself. It kind of goes back to Richard's video he had a few months ago where he said, like, hey, I don't want to address anyone of this. Hello, sell pressure. Like, you guys are complaining about price, but you guys are the ones pressing the sell button. I'm not. Like, I'm using to pay for a lot of these things, funds that we have external. And I think that's necessary, not necessary, but it definitely helps, right? Like, if you look at a project and this goes for small projects too. This is one thing where I always kind of talk about my checklist. And I look at a project and I say, okay, the people behind this project, how do they survive in the real world? Are they already wealthy? Do they have other external forms of income? Or are they going to be selling this price chart to live their lifestyle? And that's one thing I found very intriguing about Richard, is that he was already wealthy from other business ventures and from other investments, to where to live the lifestyle that he wants to live, he actually doesn't even need to sell any HEX. He doesn't need to sell any PulseChain. And I think this is very, very important to look at, because a lot, I would say 99% of projects that do launch, this is not the case. The person launching this project actually needs the money out of that project to live the kind of lifestyle that they're looking to live. Hence the reason that project is even launching, or the fact that majority of them are literally just scams. Not even that he wants to live off of it and the project be successful, but a lot of them are just, they don't even care about the project being successful. They're just trying to get valuable assets out of your wallet into a liquidity pool that they can then get at via having tokens, etc. Getting the value out of your wallet into their wallet. But that being said, I do find that very interesting with our reserves that we have with PulseChain, is even if a large portion of that value doesn't come to PulseChain just to pump the bags, I do believe either that wallet or other wallets that we don't even know about that aren't in PulseChain assets are actually paying for a lot of the standard overhead that is just the cost of doing business. Attorneys, lawyers, marketing, etc.
You know, I do think too, it's very interesting sometimes because, you know, kind of understanding how it works on the dev side, just, you know, knowing how it works. You have to think about the fact that the OA owns over 90% of the supplies of these things. So if the OA owns billions of dollars of ETH, for example, you know, people talk about it being illiquid and how Richard sets stuff up for price appreciation. But at some point, I do think that value backs the chain at higher levels. So you'll see, in my opinion, this is kind of a tangent, but I do think at some point PulseChain goes up in price, and then you see a influx of capital, not just to pump price, but to actually make it so that PulseChain becomes one of the largest blockchains legitimately from the metric of liquidity, right? In other words, at some point the price goes up, and then there's a backstop. In other words, there's only so many people left in this ecosystem that can really like sell millions of dollars into the chart. And once those people sell, there's just no one really left that can actually sell down that much into the chart unless the price goes up and adoption takes place. So from my vantage point, there will be a price appreciation and a revaluation of the chain. And then you'll see a larger backing of liquidity paired with PulseChain, with ETH. Maybe the ETH gets bridged in, and then you just see this massive ETH pairing, and now it's way harder to tank the price. So you actually have just set a new floor. And I guarantee you that the OA knows exactly who owns what and in what percentages and what kind of an impact slippage-wise they can have on the chain, because these people do this for a freaking living. It's all that they freaking do every day. So I think that it's very important to know that there's massive economic energy to backstop higher floors for the chain, that makes it one of the big dogs legitimately in the future. And that's part of it, is having that backstop for higher prices. I don't see anything I don't see the chain doing anything other than that, to be honest with you. I think that it's all just in timing. But you're right, Zen. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and we have to remember Richard's a strong believer in the liquidity increasing from price increasing. Right? If prices are low, you technically don't need liquidity backing that low price because no one has came in yet. But as price,
well, right, but what I'm saying though, and I want your opinion on it, right? What I'm saying though is, we talked about this last night in private, right? Once you want at some point you have to just buy out the people that are swing trading right now, right? You have to just go to the next levels, right?
I think so too.
And then you have to thicken up the liquidity to a point to where it doesn't matter who wants to sell at that point. That's the new floor. That's what I mean, right?
Yeah,
at
I
some
almost
point,
think
you got to get them out of there.
Yeah, my point was, and I agree with that, at some point we have to just revalue the price of Pulse out of this range, because every time it comes back down to this price, you're giving people the new opportunity to buy it at a discount. And then if you let it go up and then you just let it come back down, well, it's just that same rotation over and over and over again. At some point, you have to just be willing to, or have, you know, this can come naturally just from demand. It doesn't have to be from a single person, but demand needs to flow into this blockchain that just buys out the people who have been bouncing buys and sells in this range to move it to the next level. But I don't necessarily think Richard is the guy that just brings in the ETH and just pairs it up. I think he would inject that ETH as price goes up and down, because he, from what I've learned of what he's done in the past, is he gets the liquidity from the price appreciation, because price does not go up unless ETH gets put into that liquidity, or unless a stable gets put into that liquidity. That's the only way you get the PLS out of it. This is how he did Hex. Obviously, any user can then go and add liquidity after if they want to earn value that way. This is also one of the things that people worry about with the bridge. A lot of people are like, I'm worried that there's only, 50 million of stables in that bridge or whatever. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is because they ask, well, when price increases, there's only that much value for us to get at. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. The only way price increases is if more money goes into that bridge.
Yeah, because you have to push Pulse into the pool to get the tokens.
You have to not Pulse.
I mean stables.
Yeah.
I mean stables
or ETH. Yeah.
Yeah.
At ETH or stables has to come over the bridge. So, and this goes for any asset, right? As pTGC goes up, the liquidity is going to increase, because the only way users can get at the pTGC is by putting the PLS into that liquidity pool, or, all of our other connected assets. The same goes for PLS. The only way PLS is going to ever increase is by value going into that bridge and then being used to, buy PLS or Hex or PulseX with that value. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be a situation where he just bolsters it up with tons of liquidity, because he likes having minimal liquidity for as little amount of tokens on the market as possible. Very scarce supplies. So, because when the demand starts to flow in, that very scarce supply creates crazy price action. And as price increases, the liquidity naturally comes, because the only way price goes up is by that value going into that liquidity pool. And then obviously the community itself can bolster up the liquidity as price goes up if they feel the need to. If PLS starts cranking up and people take some profits, they're sitting on some stables, they're sitting on some ETH, well, they can pair those two up and earn ink as a reward. Now they're earning passive income off of tokens they would have just had sitting in their wallet. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, and then it's interesting because as the price goes up, Ink's super bonded, and they're earning ink to create LP. So, you're more incentivized to LP and thicken up the LP from the community aspect as the price of ink actually goes up, instead of having such massive amounts of inflation on ink. right? So it's going to be interesting.
It's very similar when you look at pTGC that way too, right? Is as assets increase in the pulse chain farms, you're earning ink. You're not going to really be earning more ink because it's a set supply coming out every single day based on the inflation rate. But what you're hoping is ink is worth more. As prices of pulse chain and pulse X go up, ink should get dragged up as well too, which is going to not increase the APY necessarily, because the dollar value of PLS that you have to put in is going to increase as well. This goes for pTGC as well. If you get in a year from now, the APY necessarily for the users getting in the year from now is not going to be better than what it is today. But for the users who actually take action early and get the valuable assets at the discount and then ride the ecosystem up, those are the people who are actually now receiving a very good APY based on the dollar value that they entered into the ecosystem with due to the X's that they've gotten on their investment. You get what I'm saying?
100%.
You know, you can come in with $10,000 today, and if PulseChain does 100x, you now have $1 million in Richard's assets. Well, you can now put those assets to work in his farms, etc., and earn an APY off of it. And now that you have $1 million, a 5% APY isn't that bad. But if you only have $10,000, a 5% APY, you know, isn't as attractive. You can't really live off of that. But you can kind of live off of it, or at least better your life, if the assets that you hold have revalued. The same kind of goes for pTGC, is there's opportunity in taking advantage of the discount, letting everything revalue, and then now you're kind of sitting at the top in a premier store value asset that's appreciating faster than mostly everything that exists in the real world. Hence, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, like you could just hold Bitcoin and Ethereum, and these have outperformed pretty much every investment that you could even think of. So you're getting price appreciation, but now since Ethereum smart contracts, you're able to use these assets to generate you revenue, so you never actually need to even sell the initials. You can keep letting those appreciate, and your family can actually live off of the APY that you receive. And think about it. Once it does 100x and we're sitting at these new floors, and you have, let's say, this $10,000 investment is now $1 million, just a 2x puts you at $2 million. Now, if you're earning 5% APY, $50,000 yearly turns into $100,000 yearly. Well, now that becomes even more livable. What happens if it does another 2x off of that? Well, then $100,000 yearly turns into $200,000 yearly. So as this real investment starts to grow and grow and grow, if you have it in systems that pay you APY, your APY is going to be growing as well. And you actually then have less of a chance of even selling your investment that's growing more rapidly than anything that really exists in the world. But you're actually keeping all that value on chain, helping the value of the chain as well. It could start compounding out very, very quickly. We just need that demand side to come in.
Yeah, PulseChain to me looks like it's bottomed. Yeah,
The pulse chain low is in 100%, no doubt about it.
100%.
My entire portfolio on that bet if somebody wanted to match it, and they think pulse chain low is going to go lower. I don't see a world in which it happening. A couple of reasons. Number one is that it does have liquidity bonding to Ethereum and speculation ties to Ethereum, and I think Ethereum is positioned from an institutional perspective and a retail perspective to go much higher for the remainder of this cycle. A lot of people do say, hey, the cycle could be over, next month if you look at history, but I just think the macros and the quantitative easing that's coming means we're going to break the 4-year halving cycle and extend it into 2026, which gives PulseChain more time to grow this cycle and solidifies that low that we already saw. So, I just think the PulseChain low is in, which means that the low on a lot of solid assets on the network as well is probably in, and now's the time to position yourselves. You've already been waiting so long. You've been patient. You've DCA'd. Don't get shaken out on any red candles, and don't sell out your positions too soon, because I know a lot of people want to pat themselves on the back, get that little bit of profits. But PulseChain bull market could potentially just be getting started, and you don't want to sell for that first 2x, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. Yeah, on the weekly, Pulse it's making a move up on the weekly, and it wicked on down to that area at 33 3 weeks ago, and then it's just creating a higher low again. And if we go past that resistance at 5, what is it, 5.5? Can't see my eyes. Yeah, 5.5. That's a confirmation of an uptrend right there. And I bet your ass we're there within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner.
Yeah, what's interesting about this rally the past 10 days, the feed isn't very exciting. The last rally that we had from the mid-July up till August, I mean, my gosh, the feed was on fire. Everybody PulseChain, my private group, people are like, all right, I'm ripping over. What are we doing? And now we rallied almost back to those same levels when the feed was on fire, and nobody's really talking about it right now. So that's interesting, but that's also solid for further upside potential and breaking above that 5.5 levels, because nobody's really FOMOing in right now. Nobody's really too excited, at least in the private groups that I'm in. So more upside potential coming, and we just got to do our best to onboard new users. And it's still hard because there's still some hurdles, but also retail isn't in the general market yet. Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana is being driven by VCs and institutional money. Your neighbor Bob isn't talking to you yet. Your no kind of friends aren't talking to you yet. And there is retail money in the markets, but it's really the OGs that are in the trenches right now, or those that are in altcoins that are still down 90%, 80%, 70%. They're not going to get excited until they start seeing green candles in their portfolio, and that's when you can talk them into rotating some funds and some profits over to PulseChain or your favorite assets, regardless of the chain they're on. So, I mean, I like that the feed's quiet while PulseChain's up 27% off the low just 10 days ago.
Yeah, it's just to me, man, it just means that people on PulseChain, they don't give a crap about a short-term move. They want a confirmation of a real uptrend at this point.
So I agree with what you guys are saying, that the bottom is in and things are looking really good. But, for sustainability, we need to bring people on chain, right? And, to me, this is just my opinion.
Who is this speaking?
This is the Jason. What's up, Mando?
All right. What's up? No shilling in here, though, man.
No, I got you. No shilling. I got you. So, we need to bring people on chain for sustainability, right? Like, pumps are great. We all love pumps. I agree that things are looking really, really nice right now. And there is the big marketing push. But, user growth has drastically decreased. I think user count has not really gone anywhere lately, right? So how do we bring people on chain? To me, in my opinion, going after other people on other networks is kind of a lost cause, because at this point, everybody has picked their coin and they're rooting for their coin, and your coin sucks, their coin's awesome. So how do we bring people on chain, right?
Yeah, it's called green candles, Jason. Nobody gives a shit about anything but green candles in this business.
And it's also called a marketing campaign that's in the works.
Yes, you have to market your product, and you have to have a product in the financial sector that when people see that product, they deem it as something valuable that they can potentially make money for their families on. Those are the only two metrics. You have to get more people in front of it, which that's what I don't see any other blockchain that's doing millions of dollars in direct to target market marketing right now. I have never received anything from Ethereum. I've never seen anything on the TV about AVAX or Solana. I've never received anything from Solana. Our blockchain is the only blockchain that's actually doing a mega massive marketing campaign into the target market right now, where actual crypto people are receiving marketing from our organization, right? So that's the answer to the question. There's a massive marketing campaign that's taking place right now. Secondly, once green candles get us to a point where sacrificers, we get back just to that sack rate area, okay, now you've reinvigorated the base. Now the base is making money. Now the people that have been watching the people like myself for 3.5 years are saying, wow, Mando, our SAC is making money now. Yes, it is. Okay, great. Well, guess what? Now you have an army that's reinvigorated because they're making money. Well, guess what? Now they're going to go tell 5 of their friends. So you have to have marketing. You have to have from the actual organization itself. You have to have marketing from the customers. Word of mouth marketing is the most powerful form of marketing in all the world. Word of mouth. But you're not going to get word of mouth if the customers aren't happy. So when that starts to happen, it's a massive double whammy. And we're like literally on the brink of that, in my opinion, right now. Right? So that's the way that you get new users to PulseChain. Thirdly, once that begins to happen, I said it on the live stream the other day, people in this industry aren't faithful to chains, they're faithful to gains. So when they start seeing PulseChain doing well, they're going to bridge in from other chains. Not all of them, but I guarantee you a large percentage of active Solana, AVAX, Ethereum, BNB users will come over to PulseChain because it's so easy to do. They're already in the space. They're already in the business. And when it's PulseChain's turn, it's PulseChain's turn, and those people will come over as well. So that's 3 massive pushes that are just indicative of natural market cycle pushes, right?
Yeah, I mean that sounds great. I think everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. Sounds epic. I'm here for it. Let's pump the chain, just like Hex back in the last cycle. It sounds awesome. I think you're making a lot of sense. So,
hey Jason, I say this too. Let's think about this too. How many people do you and I know that even though we don't feel like talking to them about potentially showing them how to do what we do, maybe we should, right? And I've been thinking about this week too. You don't want to talk, you get low because the chain's been down or whatever. But let me ask you a question. If there was ever a time, based on all the information that you know currently on the timing, where we're at, what's happening with the marketing, what's Richard's been doing, everything. If you were ever going to share new people, PulseChain to new people that you know, when would it be? They've bypassed all the bullshit. They've bypassed all the waiting, all the 4 years of crap. They haven't experienced any of that. And then all of a sudden you get a call from Mando, hey, I want to share something with you. You know, if you're interested in learning something, it take a couple hours, no problem, boom. You onboard 5 people, right? Right before the thing just goes boom. But what's happened is that the large majority of people on chain currently are just so damn down that they're either launching their own coins, which is fine, or they're just kind of just freaking checked out for now.
Yeah.
Instead, they should be paying attention to, in quotes, the signs of the times, which in my opinion is indicative of if you were ever going to tell somebody about PulseChain based on so many different variables, when would it be? It would be right freaking now. And we're sitting here going, well, why doesn't the price go up? Well, because you stopped telling everybody about it. Right? There's no way that the price of any product goes up if new customers aren't introduced to it. And if the current customers that are using it, that love it, that are doing great with it or whatever, aren't talking about it. So I'm just saying that I think that on PulseChain, we have to realize that if we want our assets to grow, at some point, it's either shit or get off the pot. At some point, it's either I believe in this thing and I think this is the actual best time in the history of PulseChain to actually get people involved, even though emotionally and spiritually, it doesn't feel like that because we've been down for so long on the chain. But in reality, this is probably the best time to ever introduce a new person to PulseChain. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, okay, so I really love what you're saying, and I agree very much with what you're saying. You know, I'll just be totally honest with you. Back in 21, I told a buddy, you know, about Hex, and it did not perform well, and it made me feel terrible for him. But you're absolutely right that right now, I mean, that was bad timing, right? But now is great timing. Now is the time, and I think you're right. People have been kind of beat down, but like, you're absolutely right. Now is the time. You don't buy tops, you buy bottoms. And at bottoms, people feel down. And that's when it's the hardest to buy. But that's when you need to buy. That's when you need to tell your friends about it, not after the huge run up. And I'm not going to, you know, I'll be honest. You're kind of making me feel like the Braveheart video where he's like, for once in your life, just come here and tell them you may take my life, but you'll never take my freedom. Like, I'm feeling those vibes right here where it's like, listen, like, put up or shut up. Stand there, hold your spear, take on the horse. Like, we got this. We can do it. And now is the time. Step up to the plate, you know, because if you're ever going to do it, now's the time to do it. And glory awaits.
And that's what he said. The first thing he said was, and looking back from here, from this time to that, would you not give everything to come back here and tell them, right? Why? Because if you win that hard and you knew that even though you had been in a war and it had been really hard, you knew you were on the tipping point and you didn't tell them that the freedom, we just defeated the enemy and we're walking into the promised land, and you didn't tell them that we were all going into the promised land. Well, when you get there, what you're thinking, shit, I wish I could have gone back and told them when it was the perfect time to tell them. But because I told my friend and he top blasted Hex in the last cycle and PulseChain's been down, we're just all stopping talking about PulseChain now. We're not going to tell anybody about PulseChain anymore until Richard pumps our bags. Well, guess what? We took the hit. Why? Because we were the first ones on the chain. Because we decided to do that volitionally out of our own free will. For the sacrificers, we knew we were putting money into a black hole with no expectations. We knew what we were doing. There were some things that we didn't know, and we knew some things that we did know. But all of that is in the past now. Now we're in a new environment. Now we have complete SEC clarity. We have complete SEC win. We have a market cycle that's doing fine. Bitcoin's doing great. Everything is looking good. We're in a much better environment now than we were before. And instead of PulseChain, the PulseChain community coming together and doing an entire new run of excitement, everyone's just freaking just pump my bags, Richard. You know? When in reality, PulseChain's not going to go anywhere. And this is probably, in my assessment, and I'm not just saying this, guys, God is my witness. I'm not just saying this. In my assessment of things, and I would love to hear only if maybe some people come up that have been here long enough to actually or qualified to talk about this. I would love to hear what you think. Because if right now isn't the time to actually start inviting new people to take a look, when would be the time? Don't you want to get your onboards on at the bottom after it's gone through all the pain just before a potential marketing campaign? When else would be the better time? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If we're not doing that, then what that means technically, intrinsically, is that we don't actually believe in our own blockchain anymore. If we aren't willing to go out and say, hey, John, I want to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to show you, it'll take me a few hours, and it will give you another way of making money You can start off with $5 grand, 10, whatever your casino money is. Start there. If we're not willing to do that at this point, then we really don't have any right to be bitching about the price, in my opinion.
Yeah, Mando, one thing I feel like a lot of people forget about is that there's businesses that are like consumables, where a restaurant, right? A restaurant could have 100 customers that are repeat customers that come back every other day, and this restaurant could pretty much completely thrive off of these 100 repeat customers, because every day they come in, they eat the product, and then, so on and so forth, and then they can come back again and absorb that product again. Where investments are a little bit different, where it's kind of like almost like if you're selling TVs. You tell someone how awesome this TV is, they come into the store, they buy the TV, they bring it to their house. They do not need a new one tomorrow. Yeah, they might want a couple more in their house, but the only way that business grows is you need to tell a friend about how awesome the experience is and how awesome the product of the TV is, to then have that new person also go buy. Yeah, they can DCA and keep buying more, but it's not like the same user can just keep re-wanting that same TV every single day forever, right? It's two different style businesses. So I 100% agree with you. If you look at PulseChain right now, there's like 10,000 active users. Let's say 10% of those active users just worked on onboarding for
one person for $5 grand, and not even saying, oh, we're going to show you how to do pump dot tires. No.
Just sustainable assets. Yeah, get them into sustainable assets.
Here's PulseChain. That's it.
Yeah, and then listen to this. So 1,000 people, you have 10,000 active people on chain. Let's say only 1,000 people said, hey, you know what? This month, I'm either going to onboard DCA myself. I'll buy an extra TV because I believe these TVs will be valuable. Or I have a cousin, I have a brother, I have a friend, I have a family member. I'm going to try to onboard $10,000 this month. If 1,000 people did that, that's $10 million of net positive value onto the chain. Let's say there's no sell pressure. Obviously, there could be, but for this example, $10 million into PulseChain right now.
You've cut out. You've cut out. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I don't know the exact number, but I think roughly $10 million on chain right now does PulseChain roughly a 10x. Well, that's the scenario. That's the scenario that everyone's been begging for the last 2 years. And we can do it just ourselves by just onboarding 1 or 2 people at $5,000 to $10,000. And that's only 10% of us active users actually doing that.
And so there you have it. And I think that on this space, we just hit the nail on the head. I think that we have to be willing to come to a spiritual reality that this is where PulseChain is. You're either with the blockchain or you're not. And you either believe in it or you don't. And if you don't, then you probably should be readjusting your portfolios. And if you do, then this is probably the best time ever to onboard new users.
Yeah, because like you said, are you willing, let's say prices do go up, are you willing to tell them about it then? Well, their risk to reward ratio just went down if you told them after the 10x. If you tell them now, let's say they come in with $10,000, yes, they are risking $10,000, but very easily that reward could be $1 million in a very powerful blockchain that has math behind it, that's decentralized, that is robust, that's been battle tested for 2 years, that has a community that has proven to not be going anywhere, with a massive marketing campaign that just started. It makes sense to get them in before. They're risking the value either way. If you plan on telling them after a 5x or before a 5x, you plan on them risking that $10,000 either way. Sometimes it kind of just takes having like an in-depth conversation, like, hey, I was going to bring this up to you, after we started moving up. But then I kind of realized, like, then the reward side to your risk was going to be a lot lower. So I'm bringing it up to you now.
100%, dude. 100%.
And I
Yeah,
get it. Having the green chart does make it easier, right? Having the green chart, having people in profits, it 100 makes it easier. And the product's going to just market itself at that point. I strongly believe that people will get mailers, see people up. The general community will start telling their friends and family. But even think about this. That person that you just onboarded at the bottom, how many people are they going to tell now? Because you got them in before the pump. And when they experience an amazing experience of, buying an investment and going up 2-3x in a matter of a short amount of time, like most people have never experienced that once before in their lives. They have 2 to 3 people that they want to expose to the product as well. And that will be the natural start to the natural growth of this blockchain. But it has to start at some point where we decide we think the bottom is in. We think it's going to start moving up from here. We do believe in this product. We believe in this investment. Right now is the best time to get friends and family in. Yes, there is risk, but you're going to tell them anyways, and you're going to ask them to risk that 5 to 10 grand to change their future after the first 5X's were gone. The reward is 5X less to the same risk. It makes sense to tell them sooner. It's harder to tell them sooner, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and not only that, we're 22% away from confirming an uptrend and a complete bottom for PulseChain. So from a TA perspective, from a historical perspective, from a post-SEC win perspective, from a massive before the marketing campaign hits this country perspective, from every perspective you can think of, the new user is going to benefit from everything that we went through tremendously. They benefit from our hard work, right? From the doldrums that we've gone through. But for us to build PulseChain, we had to, there always has to be individual people in the beginning willing to take the hit. It doesn't matter what company it is. There has to be people willing to put in the time to sleep on the couch, to sleep on the floor in their company for years. And it's the initial group of people on PulseChain. But I think you're right. I think that we really need to take an assessment of where we're at and really kind of have a heart-to-heart with ourselves. Because the bottom line is, man, if you don't believe in the blockchain you're launching a token on, or in the blockchain that you still are invested in, then why are you still here? Are you just self-deluded? Are you just, I get it. And not everybody has to share. That's fine. I'm just saying, for the people that do think that there's a legitimate life-changing opportunity for people, I just don't see any other chain that has what this has. And in terms of the timing, I don't see any other thing that has better timing. So it's indicative of just, taking a spiritual bank account, I guess, as pulsicans and hexicans. And do we believe in it or not? And where are we going to go from here? Because I truly, again, believe that from every vantage point, from every category, if you were ever going to begin to onboard new users and teach them about decentralized finance and get them involved with PulseChain, it would be right now. So I am going to make phone calls this week after this phone call. After this conversation, I'm going to commit to start making some phone calls this week. Even though I've been doing that the whole time, I'm going to make some new connections this week and see if I can start onboarding new people to PulseChain. Because it's time that we start putting our money back where our mouth is and stop waiting for some sack daddy dude to pump the chain.
Yeah. I'm creating content. That's what I'm doing.
Yes, you are. You're doing great. You're doing your part.
YouTube, TikTok. I just started on TikTok this morning. I got logged in. And then on Twitter, I'm just making short videos, guys, and popping them up on YouTube.
pTGC. Think about pTGC, dude. Like, how many people, Like it's at such a great point. It's 26 months in, proven, tested, data galore, KPIs galore, PulseChain's right there. If you were ever going to onboard a friend and just teach them, how to do this and just get them positioned, it would be right now. And I start people with just, hey man, whatever you can do that you're not even going to lose 1 ounce of sleep at night, 1,000, 10,000, whatever the hell it is. If you're interested, I'm here to onboard you professionally.
Yeah.
Professionally. That's it.
So I'll be passing these videos around. All you guys got to do is click the like, comment, and pass them around yourselves just to help the algorithm. And when you watch a video, watch it all the way through. Don't quit halfway, because that hurts the algorithm. And we can all, like, I can create content and you guys respond to it, and that just helps. It helps get the word out about PulseChain and pTGC and UFO.
Yeah, there's nothing like, I'll be honest though, there's nothing like when you personally reach out to people that know that love you and trust you, and you say, hey, I'm really good at this, and I think that you may be able to benefit from it. I'd like to share it with you. Yep. If you have no interest in it at all, I don't care. That's fine. But if you have an interest in learning this, I'm available. Now, if you do 10 touches, I guarantee you out of the 10 touches, you're going to close 2 to 3. 100%. It's going to be a 2 to 3% out of 10 conversion rate, because they know you, they trust you, it makes sense. Everyone is looking for opportunity to make money, another vertical to help propel their life forward. I do believe that PulseChain can be that for a lot of people, and just crypto in general. There's just so many people that are not involved with it. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on it, but I do think that if we want PulseChain to grow and the awesome things that are built on top of it to grow, we've got to start teaming up with Richard to continue forward now, instead of just sitting on our asses waiting for a chain to pump.
Right on. Hey, that gentleman I referred to at the beginning of Spaces that has an EHEX UFO LP, he reset his LP, and he now has 10% more UFO shares. So he will be earning 10% more rewards now going forward. That's pretty cool, man. I got to admit.
Well, what can you give me some context? What are you saying happened?
EHEX ran up. So he made an LP recently, right? I don't know when he made it.
With UFO.
Yes. He made a UFO EHEX LP recently. EHEX ran up yesterday. And that means people were buying his EHEX, which meant he had more UFO in that LP. And so he goes over to pTGC. He finds out how many UFO shares he has. Let's say he has 100 million UFO shares on pTGC. Then he goes over to PulseX V2, and let's say he has 110 million UFO in that LP.
Oh, so because of the fact that he ended up with the impermanent loss, it went in his favor. He got more UFO, so he took the stake out, and then we put it in and got more shares.
Yep, he unpaired, repaired, and got.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so he's literally going to make 10% more yield forever, or as long as he holds that LP.
Hey, that was a great move.
Yeah, it didn't cost him anything. I love it. I'm happy for him.
Does anybody else want to come up and speak? Talk about the protocols or PulseChain or crypto in general? Have any questions? I'm sure, Zen, you're probably coming to the end of the hour here with the fam. Where are you at?
Yeah, would like to get it shut down here soon. We've been going almost 2 hours, but I did want to kind of talk real quick on what you were saying about, the having a one-on-one conversation with someone And this could be a one-on-one conversation about pTGC and UFO. We have a ton of holders within pTGC and UFO. I'd say at least half of our holders hold a significant amount, if that's, over $1,000 to $5,000 or way more. And you could kind of just even downplay what the risk to reward is. For an example, like the risk, if someone comes in with $10,000, is technically a risk of that $10,000. But as long as they do their security right, we know that they're not actually risking their entire $10,000. What's the max retracement could be? 50%, 60%, 70%, maybe 90%. They're not technically risking that entire $10,000, and then you give them the reward. Hey, in life, how many times can you risk $10,000 to have the possibility of it turning into what actually have good backing to it? For an example, you can go to the casino and possibly do that, but you're just gambling, right? There's a lot of things that you can look at here that make that more probable than just, rolling a dice. And that's what I find super interesting. But by you telling them, hey, you're possibly risking $10,000, but your reward could possibly be $1 million. The funny thing about that is you're doing the extremes in both directions, right? Most likely they're not actually risking $10,000. It's a lot less than that because they can leave at any point even if they're a little bit down. But also the reward side, PulseChain could do more than 100x, right? pTGC UFO can do way more than 100x. So what you're even telling them isn't even the maximum upside potential.
Exactly. So true.
And I think you could even downplay what is actually possible and just put it to them as plain as day. Hey, in life, there isn't a lot of opportunities to where all you have to do is come up with a little bit of extra capital, put it in something, and you can actually change your life forever. I know a lot of people, I know $1 million isn't what $1 million used to be, right? But it will drastically help someone's life if PulseChain does do what we all believe it can do. You can have a family, family, friend, relative, whatever, that could drastically improve their lifestyle with very minimum effort. If you even think about how a lot of people take a risk to start a business, and Richard talks about this all the time, with cryptocurrency and what it is, it's actually almost better than business because after you're invested, a lot of people don't work for it. Some people Banana, Mando kind of do work for it, but a lot of people just hold the asset. So if you think of starting a business and what the risk to return of a business is, any business usually takes $10,000 to start. And look at where we are at PulseChain, right? We do believe that PulseChain is going to move here soon. Big marketing push, crypto's getting more adoption than ever. How many opportunities in life do you have the ability to turn $10,000 into $1 million? And there's literally things in smart contract that can pay you passively off that $1 million, where you actually have really pretty much no work even entailed. It doesn't come up too often. I think there is a lot of people that want to be exposed to it with proper education. They just don't know it exists and need a proper walkthrough on it. And it right now could be the time to reach out. I do think pTGC and UFO have earned the spot of being also a sustainable asset on chain, a great place to guide these people to alongside Richard's assets. I don't say that about a lot of other assets. You can bring them to more speculative assets. Personally, I think PulseChain's speculative enough on its own. It's literally designed to do 1,000x plus. You do not have to go too much further on the risk curve in this blockchain. You can actually pick the most sustainable, strongest communities on this blockchain and still expose people to crazy amounts of X's. And that's what's super powerful about this blockchain. It's one of the reasons pTGC and UFO are built on this blockchain, the upside potential, but you are able to expose them to the safest products on the blockchain.
That's so true. That's so true. And there's so many families out there where the father or the mother are hustling just to stay afloat, even on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and even $500 given to them. The mom would just be broke down in tears because they didn't even have grocery money. We just really forget how blessed we are in a lot of ways. That we've been blessed to actually learn this so early.
I have a buddy who is very good at his career, blue collar career. That I got into PulseChain, I think a year ago. He went pretty much all in pTGC and UFO, maybe even a little bit more than a year ago. And what he's been exposed to by being within pTGC's ecosystem is an opportunity that he had never seen before, right? He had a plan for his life, and he very successful, owns his house, has investments and stuff like that. But it is difficult to get very, very far ahead. And what he saw in a short amount of time, especially when we're closer to all-time highs, etc., was the opportunity to set his family ahead, right? An opportunity that a lot of people are looking everywhere for. Like, they just can't find it. It's very hard to find. There's not a lot of opportunities where someone can take $10,000, because people do have $10,000. Maybe they only have 5, maybe they only have 2. They have some sort of savings. A lot of these people are actually not even educated on investments, etc. They're savings in fiat. They have no idea that they're saving money in a transactional currency, not an investment currency. Literally, it's just becoming worth less and less, and they're fighting to save money in that asset. It's literally just becoming worth less every single day. And just with the proper education, they're able to put their savings in investments that don't only hedge themselves against inflation, but have the ability to appreciate so rapidly that they can actually change their families' lives forever. A lot more people than we realize are actually looking for this. They have no idea where to look, though. Have no idea where to start. They have no idea where to get educated on it. It is very difficult to get educated on this stuff because very little people even know this stuff. It's not taught in school. Most parents don't know this stuff because the world that our parents grew up in is a lot different than the world that we're currently in. So I just think it's a great reminder that obviously you are risking some value, but there's a lot of people out there who are willing to take that risk for the amount of reward that we have here on PulseChain. The reward that we have here on PulseChain could be absolutely massive. Obviously, we could be risking our funds, but it is life-changing.
Yeah, man. I think that's a great place to close out the space right there. Unless you guys have anything else, man.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yep, that sounds like a good wrap. There aren't any more comments on YouTube.
I want to put it out there again. I'm personally making myself available. You can DM me at the Crypto Mando. If you want to have a personal conversation about the space, about the Grace currency, the protocol, about PulseChain, my desire is just to give you credible information. You're not going to get any kind of a sales pitch whatsoever. I don't need to. I don't need it. I'm perfectly fine. But we're wanting to onboard people and answer questions and get you, in front of people who are actually qualified to answer your questions. I consider myself to be one of those people. So if you want to give me a DM and have a conversation, we actually will talk through X on a phone call. I'm also doing that for people who are already in the community that have other people that have questions and just, they don't feel qualified to speak. So I have been taking phone calls with those people too. So feel free to DM me if you need any of those kind of help desk services. That's part of my contribution to onboarding people to PulseChain and just helping people get situated. So I just want to throw that out there again.
Yeah, man. I love that.
Hey, I did have a request I just saw. Block Now, did you have a quick question or a comment that you wanted to get out before we shut this down?
Block Now? You got to unmute.
Sorry. I probably tapped that by accident. I did not.
Like,
Okay,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay, great.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
All right. See you, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, that was fun. I didn't catch not even half of that. I'm so excited to make videos right now, and that's about what I'm about to do. So, all right. Oh, go vote on pulsefolio.com, plsfolio.com. We got to keep the votes up because we're losing ground. But when the market starts flying, everybody gonna come back into the grays, and we'll get lots of votes. We'll get them going. All right, guys. Go have a good Saturday. I am too after I make a few videos. Thanks. See ya.